Hi, everybody, and welcome back to our seminar series on the Graduate Student Chronicles. I'm joined today by Will McNeil, a PhD student studying environmental engineering at UC Berkeley. Hi, Will. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, we're glad you're here. So, can you tell us a little bit more about your studies at UC Berkeley to start us off?
Sure thing. So, like you said, I'm a PhD candidate in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering here at UC Berkeley with a focus on environmental engineering. My research focuses on life cycle assessment of electric vehicles, including the electrification of heavy duty trucks. So, I quantify the air pollutant and the greenhouse gas emissions from every step of a vehicle's life cycle, from the manufacturing to the electricity generation that powers them, and then to the end of life. And I use those air pollutant emissions to understand the impact on human health, and that helps us evaluate federal policies.
That's all really interesting. And then, just to clarify, can you tell us what year you are?
Yep, so sure thing. I am in my fourth year right now of the PhD program, including my master's year and then about 3 years of research after that.
Perfect. So, today we're going to focus a little bit on the topic of work-life balance. So, can you tell us, just to start us off, how much free time do you have outside of grad school?
Sure, I think that's a really interesting question, but also a bit of a tough question to answer since the amount of free time you have in graduate school is completely up to you. It's much more self-guided than an undergrad. And I've heard this joke before that I didn't want to do a 9 to 5 job, so I decided to do a PhD, and now I work 24/7. But this is the wrong attitude to have in graduate school. In a PhD program, you need to budget in time for yourself, and it's not sustainable to work 24/7. So in undergrad, you might be used to having a lot of short-term assignments that you might need to work some late nights, but then you're done. In grad school, you have these long-term research projects that you design and carry out as part of your thesis. And it can be tough to pull yourself away from that to take a break, since you feel like you always have work to do that's hanging over your head. So it's completely up to you in graduate school how much free time you give yourself. And it's important to take breaks, and you'll produce better work if you have that good work-life balance.
Just for some added context, do you have any additional responsibilities that you pursue in your grad program on top of course load?
Yeah, so in graduate school, your responsibilities often go beyond just research or classes. For me, I work as a teaching assistant, and that involves leading discussion sections, grading, mentoring students. I've also done internships, which gives me exposure to industry work. And then on top of that, I spend a lot of time writing papers and preparing for conference presentations. And that helps get the word out about my research. And there's also volunteer opportunities that you can take on, like mentoring undergraduates in the lab, leading student organizations, and serving on administrative committees in your department. Graduate school, I think, is a great time to try some new things and do something completely different from your primary research. I highly encourage graduate students to take an internship or a research project outside of your initial field to increase your breadth of knowledge and your areas of expertise. So for me, all of last year, I pursued a year-long Fulbright fellowship in Christchurch, New Zealand. And that was a great opportunity to explore new areas of research, make international connections, and live somewhere else for a while. And it was also great to take a break from my primary research and prevent getting burnt out. So there's more responsibilities in graduate school, but there really are exciting opportunities as well.
That kind of leads me to my next question. I'm curious, at what point in your 4 years here were you the most overwhelmed, and how did you approach time management in those situations?
Yeah, so there are times in graduate school where you'll feel very overwhelmed by maybe coursework or your thesis work or big exams coming up. Um, and you might be wearing a lot of different hats and have a lot of different responsibilities. Um, and so time management in graduate school requires a shift in mindset compared to undergrad. So instead of focusing on short-term deadlines, you might be managing long-term projects and a lot of different things at once. And so it's important to stay organized and maintain that momentum. And so what I like to do to approach time management is break down these large tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. So if I'm working on a paper, for example, I'll set daily goals, like drafting a section or revising a figure. And I use tools like Google Calendar to schedule my week and block off time both for personal and work responsibilities.
That's really good advice. And I could see that being super helpful when it comes to like having anxiety regarding this long-term project. But PhD programs span many years. So how do you have the motivation to push yourself to continuously break down long projects into small steps for such a large span of time?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Um, and it is important to stay motivated in a PhD program. Um, I would say one interesting piece of advice is to focus on progress rather than perfection. Um, in grad school, you might be working on projects where the answers aren't always clear, which is a big difference from undergraduate. And it is normal to encounter some setbacks from time to time. But what matters is that you keep learning and you keep moving forward in your program, even when things don't always go the way that you want.
How big would you say collaboration is in your PhD program, especially when it comes to work-life balance? Does it help to have a community at all to kind of alleviate that stress that comes with grad school?
Yeah, so a collaboration is incredibly important in a PhD program. Most of the time, you'll be in a research lab with a professor or a PI leading the lab, and then several graduate students or postdoctoral fellows who work collaboratively. And so I think it's really important to have that community in a lab group or have people who you can rely on to ask questions whenever you get stuck, to work on different projects with, and just have that community. So I think that's really important in having a lab group of people to talk to, work on ideas with. That's really pushed me forward in my PhD program. So it's important to find that community.
Absolutely. So for our last question, I know that you've talked a lot about giving advice and you've given some great advice so far. Are there any last sentiments you want to leave potential grad students who are worried about taking on such an intense course load?
Yeah, I would say first, it's okay to feel nervous about graduate school. It's a big step, but remember that you're not alone in the journey and there is a lot of support available if you ask for it. But be sure to ask for help from your professor or mentor and also from your lab mates is super important. Um, but also make sure to set boundaries. So it can feel like there's always more work to do, but you do need time to rest and recharge. Taking breaks isn't a luxury; it's really necessary for success. And finally, I would say to just embrace that graduate school is a chance to grow both academically and personally, and you'll develop skills in problem solving and communication that's going to help you throughout your career, even beyond grad school. So take some opportunities, do things outside of your main area of focus, because grad school is a great opportunity to learn and to grow and try new things. So really put yourself out there and take advantage of all the available opportunities.
Perfect. What a great note to end on. So, thank you, Will, for joining us, myself and everyone at the EBI. I wish you the best of luck in all your future endeavors and especially your last couple of years in your PhD program. And again, we thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for checking out the EBI seminar series on graduate students and their experiences. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more content on graduate programs. Be sure to follow along for future installments or check out our previous series and explore our social media, which are all linked in the description below. Thank you for watching and see you next time.